Celsius, drink it. I'm sponsored. Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. We live in a world right now where we have tons of whistleblowers and people in the media telling us what to think about UFOs and UAPs. Can we trust them? You've been led to believe that we are right now living in a golden age of UFO, UAP disclosure. And I'm here to tell you very simply that we are not. Unfortunately, with all the whistleblowers, all the congressional hearing and testimony, with all the documentaries going on right now, we've been basically lied to by most, if not everybody, in some respect about what's going on in the UAP world. Now, I'm not here to say that David Grusch is wrong or that Lue Elizondo is just trying to sell books. He's just trying to sell books. But what I'm here to say is there are a ton of grifters in the space right now. And what I wanted to do with today's video is kind of peel back the veil on the supposed golden age of UFOs and really talk about who's trustworthy, who's credible, whose stories hold up over time, and whether or not we can actually believe them. This is not your typical YouTube video where I say there's a bombshell and it's happening right now. This is instead going to be a pretty grounded deep dive by someone who has been where you are, who's interested in the topic, thinks that there's really, really vast implications for UFO and the technology that's with UFOs, but that the topic has been led astray by people who don't have our best interests in mind. And by the way, if you're interested in this kind of subject, definitely make sure to subscribe. If you look down, I don't have any subscribers. So with whatever I talk about, make sure to comment on it, leave a like, and I'll comment back and we'll talk about it. You can tell me who I missed, who's right, who's wrong in this field, and what you think. So, like I said before, it does seem like we are drowning in noise with UAPs, but let's go back to a time in which we kind of weren't. One of the first main people to bring the UFO story to the mainstream was Bob Lazar. Of course, we all know the clips of him where we can't really see his face talking to George Knapp about what he saw at S4 in Groom Lake and the whole Area 51 thing. And from an imaginatory standpoint, those are great stories. And I think that there is some truth to them. Unfortunately, I also think that this is one of those situations where anything that Bob Lazar has said, it's with the consent of the United States government, whether he knows that or not. So let's look at his claims for a second. He said that he worked on a piece of material at S4 that was related to the power drive of the sports model UFO. Interesting. And I really like what he says about working with other people at the UFO facility. He said that he worked with another scientist, that at one point he even saw all the UFOs lined up in one long line and was able to see where certain crafts were damaged, things like that. And specifically, I think the most credible part of his claim is when he talks about how everything that he looked at was segmented. He was looking at one specific part of one specific craft, and there might have been teams of other people working on many other things. That is believable, and it really does track with what we know about UFOs, which is that if they do exist, they're being recovered by some sort of paramilitary squad, maybe associated with the Department of Energy, and that those pieces are either getting sent to private contractors or to government labs, and nobody has the full picture on what any of that stuff is. Okay, so that's believable, but what's the issue with it? Well, truthfully, the idea of a young scientist getting all this information and then just blowing the whistle on it, bringing people to see crafts actually flying, and then going and doing news interviews without first being whacked off by the government, it doesn't track. Anything that Bob Lazar has said has had to have been approved by the government, whether he knows it or not. And that doesn't mean that that story is fake. It just means that we need to understand that this is part of some larger psyop, and I don't know what that exactly means, but I don't think that we can take his claims at face value without first acknowledging that there's something behind it. Basically, that he was either deliberately misled or given certain things that the government wanted to come out. His story happened in a time when there wasn't a lot of UFO information going on, and I think that's one of the reasons it's had so much traction over the years. People keep coming back to the Bob Lazar story, and the more information that comes out, the more comments I see online about people saying, we all owe Bob Lazar an apology. And maybe we do, because I don't think that he was disingenuous about what he was saying, and I certainly don't think that he is a liar. If we move forward to now, I think the current version of Bob Lazar, at least in terms of impact, has definitely been David Grusch. And credit where credit's due here. The David Grusch interview with Ross Coulthart was a seminal moment for UFOs. I think definitely even more so than the 2017 article in the New York Times. Sure, it wasn't as mainstream because it was on News Nation, but this, at least for me, and I know for a lot of people I know, this interview is what got people interested in current UFOs and the idea that the government has been hiding them and has programs. Unfortunately for David Grusch, he suffers from the fact that he has been employed and is currently employed by the government in some capacity. Now, what did David Grusch claim in his interview with Ross Coulthart? It wasn't anything too salacious in terms of, I saw alien bodies, I saw crafts. But he did say that he's talked to dozens of whistleblowers, each of whom had some different part of the puzzle, which does give credit to Bob Lazar's story. The issue here is that as the years have progressed from that first claim, we've heard less and less of David Grusch. We all wanted that op-ed that he was supposed to release. We never got it. And I don't think this is David Grusch's fault. I think that he's been doxxed. I think that some terrible stuff has happened to him and his family, and he's had to deal with that. And all of that lends credit to the idea that what he's saying, he actually believes. And when I say what he believes, I don't mean in the Bob Lazar way where he's been maybe brainwashed by the government to some extent or been shown things that aren't true. I actually think that David Grusch did a lot of the research and footwork himself to come to these conclusions, and then took them to the Inspector General of the intelligence community where it was deemed credible and urgent. The issue here is that he currently still works for the government, and did he ever even get into that skiff? We have no idea. His claims have basically gone to the wayside now. We have no way to verify anything that he said. The congressional hearings, not his fault by the way, but the congressional hearings that he was in, they didn't lead to anything. And every other piece of congressional activity related to David Grusch has not moved the ball forward at all from what we've seen. And I will say this one thing about David Grusch. I don't know if you remember this, but from his early interviews, he did make it seem like all the information that he had was secondhand, like he had never seen anything up close. But just watching some recent interviews that he did, like the one with Bret Baier on Fox News, that story sort of changed a bit. He does say now that he has seen up close, firsthand evidence of crafts, of something that proves beyond a reasonable doubt that these things exist, not just material or hearsay. Yet, still, for me, David Grusch is one of the most believable people out there, with only the caveat that he works for the government, and anytime that somebody is currently working for the government, we really can't believe what they say 100% of the time. And what I'm saying here isn't supposed to be taken as some strictly anti-government thing. I'm simply saying that when it comes to UFOs, there is some sort of deep state covert action, some friction that's taking place within inside the United States government at all times. And David Grusch, for better or worse, in trying to bring this out, has been on the wrong side of that friction many times. And who knows what that has done behind the scenes and how that's affected what he has wanted to say publicly. Somebody that I've kind of lost all faith in is Lue Elizondo. He's sort of the consummate insider, intel spook that we should not believe in any situation. And I feel bad saying that. And if you disagree, let me know in the comments below. I bought his book. In fact, we bought 2 of them, my girlfriend and I, because we were going to read them independently at the same time. But with all of his stories, and the more and more I hear from Lue Elizondo, I'm left thinking that he's either purposely lying to us, purposely obstructing what he actually knows, or he's kind of gone off the deep end. His story has changed so many times, and he's added so many elements to it. Okay, so now he's a remote viewer. Whatever, that's fine. We know that remote viewers probably do exist. Oh, he's seen balls of energy light in his house. Okay, he never said that before. Oh, he's in front of Congress right now showing a picture of a cornfield saying that it's a giant UFO. Where do we draw the line here and say that our most trusted UFO people are kind of bullshitting us right now? I think that he knows that. And whether he's an intel agent and they told him to take a step back, or he's just in a situation where he thinks he's lost credibility, I don't know. But at this point, we need to put a huge asterisk on everything that he says. And then, of course, there's all the other Reddit level whistleblowers that we've had over the past couple years. And they seem to each have their own cult following. And I'm not here to say that any of them are particularly correct or wrong. But until somebody actually brings verifiable proof that isn't associated with some book or some organization that they're also hawking at the same time, I'm not really going to trust what they say. I've watched too many Ross Coulthart News Nation interviews where I was expecting to see some 4K quality UFO footage and instead saw a 2K quality 20-year-old video of a egg or something. Who knows what that crap is? By the way, that brings me on to the media side of this whole situation. And I think this is really important because our media landscape is completely tainted. Now, every day we tune into our favorite YouTubers to watch whatever breaking news bombshell they have and hear their opinion. And some of them are focused on the Nazca mummies. Others are focused on sort of the psyops behind UFOs. Others are just focused on past events that have happened. In all those situations, nobody seems to be really moving the ball forward. Unfortunately, this is where Ross Coulthart has fallen. He used to be, in my opinion, one of the most credible people on the subject, especially with that David Grusch interview. I read his book. I thought it was interesting. I particularly liked the idea of UAPs in Australia and the connection to the whole Five Eyes thing. However, in recent months and years, Ross Coulthart has basically just seemed to be talking about the same thing over and over. There is a craft hidden so large they had to build something over it. Okay, amazing. Tell us where that is. Well, it's national security. That does not make any sense to me. And here's the problem with that. If somebody in the national security space is telling Ross Coulthart that, whether they're American or Australian or British, they're not telling Ross Coulthart that so he can keep it to himself. They're telling it because he's a vessel for getting it out to the public. He should not be the arbiter of what we, the public, know about UFOs. If he has information as a journalist, he should be bringing that forward. If he's telling us that he can't say something because of national security reasons, but he's allowed to know what that is, in my opinion, that means that he is at some level compromised, because that sounds exactly like what a deep state asset would say. And I'm not saying that's what he is. I just think that he's talked to too many people that have had connections to the military side of this, and he's been led to believe that everything UFO related is so national security important that we are not allowed to know about it, which means that he's lost sight of the main thing that brings all of us to UFOs, the implications to our lives. One, our place in the universe, and two, what would it do for our technology? Is there some sort of zero-point energy out there? Is there something that we need to know and have a right to know, a fundamental right as human beings? If so, he should be telling us what that is, not holding it back. And then there's some of the other people out there, like Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp. Don't really know what to think about those guys. Let me know what you think. See, anytime I watch a Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp thing, I basically feel like, one, Jeremy Corbell talks in circles the entire time, and two, he's got interesting people on, but they're not really moving the ball forward, specifically because his claims are so salacious that anytime he brings a new video, to his credit, he's bringing these videos, he's claiming that there's some sort of 100% slam dunk disclosure event. And in reality, all we get is like a grainy footage of a jellyfish or something like that. It doesn't really make sense to me either. So I don't know. Tell me what you guys think about this, because I am really sick and tired of the whistleblowers and specifically the media people in this space just dragging us along every day for years now, telling us that they have the final piece of evidence that's going to lead to disclosure, and then we're left looking like fools. Which I'm sure at some level is by design. Whose design? Trying to find that out. And those are just a couple of the big names in this space. I know that there's tons of others. If you want to hear me talk about that, put it in the comments below. And if you like this kind of thing, let me know too. I don't use a script for something like this. I'm just talking. So if you enjoy this content, subscribe.